The fact is that many organizations, and it really doesn't matter what size they are, big or small, many of them don't have a good, strong understanding of risk management, or how it impacts the business. So the risk visibility and reporting is actually very low in those organizations. Now, with all of the exploits that are being discussed on the news right now, it's almost a daily, if not certainly a weekly event where some exploit, some vulnerability has caused a major disruption or a loss of confidentiality. With that being reported on, CNN, NBC, all of the different news organizations all the time, this level of visibility is starting to rise quickly. But the reasons for the original low visibility still are there, which is a lot of organizations and the key stakeholders in the organizations, senior management, they just don't understand what risk and risk management is and how these vulnerabilities impact them. They know that if something goes wrong, it's bad, but they don't necessarily know how to solve the problem. And this is where you as a security professional and information security can be helpful. Now, I do want to say that if you're in an organization that doesn't have a lot of formalized risk management, you may have parts of it in different places, but not a larger formalized process. It's really hard to start it from the ground up. In fact, it really has to start from the very top, but you can help provide the information. And that's some of the things that we want to look at. First of all, you want to start to take a look at an enterprise risk management, ERM, which is the process of identifying, assessing those risks, and then reducing those risks through a series of controls. Now, there are formalized processes for this, and we're going to, throughout this course, take you through some of those standardized, formalized processes, but each organization may take control of its own processes and make some changes to how it wants conducted. Now, through an enterprise risk management, this will help change the culture of a reactive to proactive. And in IT, there's a lot of folks that are very reactive. In other words, there's something that fails, a server fails, a network switch fails, we have an outage, and we react to that. And what we find is, in a lot of cases, that we're reacting to something that may have been able to be prevented. In other words, had we spent the time being proactive and prevented that failure from occurring, then we wouldn't have had the loss. In other words, we have controls in place. We would have reduced the loss that would have occurred. And that puts us in a very proactive place to be in. What we want is not just IT to be that way. We want the entire business culture to become that way. And as a business starts to implement a formalized risk management process, this is one of the things that starts to occur. And of course, this is going to help the organization both forecast and mitigate risk. And while you and I are focused on IT and security risk evaluation, the organization has many other risks that it needs to look at in other parts of the organization. And so this overall process can help them. Now, as I had mentioned earlier, this must be undertaken at the organization level by the senior managers and stakeholders, because there's so much to this formalized process that if you are new to the organization and at a lower level in the organization, you just don't have the authority to conduct some of these exercises. It requires time and money and additional staff in order to be able to do this. So it's got to start at the very top. And it's going to involve everything that you can imagine, from employee training to doing risk identification, which we're going to get into here in just a few minutes, across the entire organization, not just from an information security or IT standpoint. What kind of incidents and response reporting and what kind of monitoring. And we're going to be talking a lot about in this course, continuous monitoring. And I said at the very beginning in the introduction, I'm going to try not to talk too much about it before we get there, but monitoring, once we have the risk management process in place, is one of the most important components of it. So by implementing an enterprise risk management process, this can move the organization to be able to predict and be able to identify and deal with these vulnerabilities and events that can occur that would cause loss. So what do you say we start to dive deeper into what these risk management concepts are?